pains in the asses, and he had the Mexicans, and the whites were, which was I was considered white, Italians are white. There was no Italians. There was maybe a couple of Italians. So there's one kid when I was in high school. This kid Jeremiah Stanziali. I don't know where the hell if that's a first name Jeremiah, but his last name was Italian Stanziali. This kid was a drunk. The last time I saw him, we had a class trip up to Mount Airy Lodge in Pennsylvania, and we fucked the whole place up, the whole high school. They said we could never come back. Kids got drunk, threw up in a pool. They were fighting. It was just a free for all. We weren't well behaved teenagers. I didn't do anything at the time, but I mean, they're just in general, they didn't want us back. So Jeremiah comes out and they're taking him to the bus and he's drunk. He can't even walk, he's so drunk. All right, now, that's the last time I see Jeremiah. I'm in Germany. I'm in Frankfurt with two other guys, two other soldiers. Aschaffenburg was only a half an hour away from Frankfurt, so we would take the bus. Not the bus, the train. We would take a train from Aschaffenburg to Frankfurt. And we'd hang out in Frankfurt, and there was bars, and Kaiserstrasse there was prostitutes, so there was like whorehouses because prostitution is legal in Germany. The girls just have to have this card. They got to show you the card. And if there's a blue stamp, that means they're clean. If there's a red band, that means they failed the test. I never really indulged myself in that lust. But, we used to hang out there, go to the bars. That was the thing to do, right? Okay. So I see a GI laying on the side of the sidewalk with his face toward the wall. He's out. He has his uniform on. So I go, hey, look, an army guy, GI. You can't leave him here. And they say he's passed out. And these guys, somebody's going to rob him or something. So we turn him over. Who do you think it is? Jeremiah Stanzial. I'm in Germany. I turn over a drunk and there's Jeremiah. Well, he died now. God rest his soul. But he stayed around the neighborhood all his life. Anyhow, from there, I get allocation from Germany. I get allocation to Vietnam. And that was a whole nother story. That was a whole nother story. I've been talking for 37 minutes and 15 seconds. But, so, what could you say about Vietnam? I don't even want to go into that. It's just that's a book in itself. Well, if you read my book, Sins of the Fathers, you get a good understanding of what Vietnam was about. After Vietnam, I went to Korea. I was up on the DMZ, the 2nd ID, 2nd Infantry Division. 1st to the 31st. You want to hear something? My platoon leader was a Lieutenant David Hunt. He got to be a colonel in the military, and he's on Fox 5 News. He has a segment called On the Hunt with David Hunt. And he was my platoon leader. I saw him on TV. I went, what the fuck? Oh, my God. And I called him up, found out his number, got his wife, and his wife gave me his cell phone number, told him I had been in the military with him. I call him up. I go, this is Quattrochi. He goes, oh, my God. I go, you remember what happened up on the DMZ? He goes, I live with the scars of it every day of my life. He was wounded. And he helped me out quite a bit. Guy was my hero. And he just kept on saying, I said, I want to apologize for what happened. And he goes, no, don't worry, just thank God we're alive. That's all he kept saying was, thank God we're alive. So that was that. That was my little touch with somebody. And got out of the military, came home, and started to get involved with, kind of wanted to get involved with mafia people. What else was I going to do? I didn't really want to work. So, there's plenty of mob guys in the area, that's for sure. And I was known in the area. They knew my family. They didn't, and I had family members that were extremely connected. Um, you know, they were considered an entire crime family at one point. So I worked for my Uncle Frank. You know, I worked for my Uncle Frank, and I put in slot machines for him. That's about it. Made some money, did some collection work, and I was starting to get in with some pretty bad people, dangerous people. Like they could have killed me. I mean, if I stepped out of line. And they were people from the Gambino family. And they knew my family. They knew some of my cousins. So what happened was these guys were making a lot of money, doing whatever they did. Because I was just hanging with them. I wasn't really doing anything with them. See, there's different crews that do certain things. Like I was just putting in slot machines and stuff. And there were these guys, I don't know, I think they were robbing like jewelry stores. They were like burglars, but they were making like, coming in with trays of diamond rings into the clubs. So I said, listen, whatever you guys are doing, I'd like to do it with you. At the time, I was into that. I saw this one guy was like, we were only in our 20s. This guy had a beautiful house in Little Ferry with a pool in the back. It was like, what the, Jesus, So I said, whatever you doing? So he goes, Vito, you're not the type. I said, what do you mean I'm not the type? He's telling me I'm a pussy. I didn't say you were a pussy, Vito. You're not a pussy. He goes, just, you're not the type to do what we do. Okay. Still hung out with them, bounced with them, different clubs and stuff like that. Then I find out there's this one guy named Tony. We all knew him. And he went to school with us, right? He was with them and working with them. And he wanted out for some reason. He met this girl, and, once you're in, you're not out. So I go by the candy store. Everybody had a candy store. Each crew had a candy store or a club room. So I go by the store, and I see, I'm not mentioning any names, these guys, they're outside, the one guy. And I go, hey, how you doing? He goes, not now, V. We're doing something in there. We're having a sit down in there. Everything was a sit down. Even if you wanted to, let's have a sit down. Where are we going tonight? Everything's a sit down. We're having a sit down in there. You can't come in. Okay. Take off. So next day I find out that this guy Tony, that we knew, he was getting married. He didn't want to be involved in what he was doing anymore. They shot him in the belly 8 times. In the car. While I was in the car. Turned around. He was in the back seat. The guy in the front seat, who I know, turned around, shot him in the belly 8 times. Now listen to this. Because we knew him so well, they knew him so well, and they had concern for him. They had concern for him. They did him a solid, and they let him out in front of St. Mary's Hospital in Hoboken. Right out in front of him. Let him out, and they took off. This is what we're doing for you. Goes in, he lives. Loses half of his stomach, lives. Never talks. Never says a word. Scares the shit out of me, though, because I'm thinking, when I said I want to go with you, and so-and-so says to me, you're not the type, I got insulted. But you know what? In retrospect, I wasn't the type. If they would have said to me, we're going to kill Tony. What are you, fucking crazy? Kill him. Smack him around a little bit. You know, I don't know. What did he do? He wants out. What about if I want out? Then just at that time, I meet my wife. And this guy, Joe Durham, he was hanging with me. This kid he was in the Navy. And we hooked up. I was cutting his hair, and he was living in Passaic and in YMCA. And I don't know what the heck. I don't know what, but I went to pick him up, and we started hanging out. We got to be good friends. And, I was starting to get into some criminal activity, and he really didn't want to be involved in that. And because he was from Indiana, he was a Midwestern boy. Was in the Navy, veteran, came out, and wanted a good job, wanted to have a nice family, meet a nice girl. He didn't want to be involved with a criminal, and I was getting involved in that. But he introduced me to this girl that he worked with, this girl Peggy, Italian girl. He said to me, there's this Italian girl who works with me, and everybody wants to go out with her. She's beautiful. She won't go out with nobody. I said, if she meets me, she'll go out with me. And she did. I met her. And when I walked in the room, she wouldn't even look at me, which I knew when they give you that thing that I'm not even going to look at them. That means that they like you. And there was nothing not to like about me at the time. I'm still not bad looking, but not like I was. Age is a cruel master. But anyway, I meet my wife, and this guy across the table says to me, so Vito, are you a guinea or a wop? And I look at him and I go, I don't like that. So he kind of turns away, and I said, did you hear me? I don't like that. So his friend goes, nah, he didn't mean anything by it. I said, I'm not talking to you. He called me. So, yeah. Are you making a video? Yeah. Are you done? No. Sorry. So I said, I don't like that. So he says, anyway, I look over at Peggy, and she goes, like she dug the fact that I put this guy in his place. So then this guy gets up and asks, and she's dancing with him on a dance floor, because disco was big at the time. This was the 70s. Disco was big. She's dancing with him. I know how to dance. I actually, when I was in the military, I took dance lessons. Yeah, from this Italian guy, Don, from Don and Rosita's. He taught me how to do the jitterbug and stuff, but I could do anything. I could do anything. So I wanted to be able to dance with the girls, because my grandfather told me when I was a kid, my grandfather was a ladies' man. He was a barber. And I said, Grandpa, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to talk to girls. He goes, learn how to do two things. Learn how to read palms. So you're holding the girl's hand, you're talking to her. And he said, learn how to dance. And you'll have all the girls you want. You're a good-looking kid, he said. Okay. Anyway, I go, excuse me, could I cut in? He's danced. This same guy who called me a guinea, I think his name was Dave. I don't know what his name was. But anyway, I go, excuse me, and I push him out of the way. I just knocked him out of the way, and I took her over. And I danced with her. And then she had to go, and I brought her to the door, and I kissed her. Pushed her out the door. She said, she talks to me now. She said, you didn't even walk me to the car. Pushed her out the door. So I called her for about 2 weeks. Couldn't get her out of my mind. She's so beautiful. And I prayed that night. I said, Lord, if I can have her, I won't want anybody else. Ever. And I wound up marrying her. And we have 3 children. I'm going to have 5 grandchildren. I'm going to have 6 grandkids. My daughter's pregnant again. She's going to have 4. And Vito has 2. And I have 3. I have Vito, Laura, and Dominic. And now I got 6 grandkids. And I've been a barber. I never even brought that up. That I actually became a barber, like my grandfather. and my one uncle Frank, and not Franco, not the one who ran Hoboken, because my mother's side of the family. He was a barber, and I learned how to be a barber, and that's what I've been doing legitimately all these years. A few times I fell. You know what I mean? I have family that's connected up, so it was always this draw to do something illegal. But you know what? The main thing I have to say is that's my story. And I found Christ in my heart. And I started this off because I said, I hear these people giving these amazing testimonies. That was my testimony. That was my life before I knew Jesus Christ. And when I found him, I asked him into my heart. And even though I get tempted at times to do illegal stuff for money, because money came hard. My wife and I decided when we first got married that if we were going to have children, that she was going to raise them. They weren't going to be latchkey kids, and they weren't going to be raised in daycare. So we had to struggle financially because of that. And there was always that lure for me to go back to doing something. At one point, even as a Christian, when I was married, I was collecting money for this one guy, and that I knew for a long time. He trusted me, and how much can you trust a criminal? But I trusted him to a certain extent. He set me up, and I would collect money, and I was going around collecting. And I wasn't the tough guy. I was the nice guy. My line was, listen, you have to pay these guys back because I'm not going to hit you. I ain't even going to yell at you, I used to say. But if you don't, give it to me. They're going to send somebody else that you wish I was here. And they had some mean guys that would... We had this one guy, man. This guy was like Man Mountain Dean. Big friggin' Italian kid. Wound up that he was the boxing champ of the whole East Coast boxing prison system. It was like, this guy was like nuts. And I seen him beat some people up really bad. So I really didn't want to get involved in that life because if you get on the wrong side of him, and something happened. Like I said, when I was doing that, you see, these people, there it is. I'm at this Italian cafe, right? And I'm collecting for this one guy. And this guy, John, right? He ran the thing, and I was doing what I said. I was collecting. So this one kid that was his partner gets involved with drugs. Now, he had a whole book, a whole numbers book that he was collecting from and making very decent money on it. So he says he starts getting involved with heroin and he has to go away to a rehab. He gets arrested for doing whatever, that too, right? He lived right down the street from me. I saw the cops watching him. My daughter was babysitting his kids. He gets arrested. The cops pull up. He gets taken out in handcuffs. His father was a made guy in one of the New York families. So now I'm at this cafe on Harrison Avenue, Italian cafe. And my cousin Sal comes up to me and goes, "You taking over so-and-so's book?" I said, "I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Who's taking over his book now that he went away?" I said, "I don't know." He goes, "It's you, isn't it?" He goes, "You're smart. You're not saying nothing." I said, "Honest to God, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Who's taking over his book? Who's not taking over his book?" He goes, "You're smart." I don't know. Then I had to get a call from my guy, and he's yelling at me. "Who the fuck are you telling?" He goes, "So-and-so's father from New York called me up. Who's this fucking Vito going to take over my son's book? I'll break his fucking head." He goes, all this mooyin, all this bullshit came. I didn't even know what the hell he was talking about. So I said, you know what? These guys are nuts. They're nuts, man. I don't even want to bother with them. Oh, there's another with this guy Gino with the gun. There was guns involved, and it's just so. You know what? I said, I accepted Christ. He changed my life. I run a legitimate race. I love my wife. I love my kids. I love my grandkids. And that's all there is for me. And that's my story. But I want to tell you that if it wasn't for Jesus Christ, I don't know where I'd be. Because he was the one I was able to fall back on. He was the one I was able to fall back on when I was tempted to do wrong. So, this is Vito from Jersey. That's my story.